What's going on, everyone? My name is Iceman. Welcome back to Digital Combat Simulator World. Now, I turned down the gain on the mic a little bit, so it should be good to go. I shouldn't lose too much quality, unless I speak very loud. But anyways, before we begin with this video, I just want to say that Eagle Dynamics is going through the biggest sale they've ever done, up to 60% off on a lot of their shit, as you can see here. So it says, welcome to the 15th year of Digital Combat Simulator, 15-year anniversary. Since the release of Black Shark in 2008, this has been going from strength to strength in all thanks to you, our wonderful community. This 1st of September 2023 marks the start of our DCS 15th anniversary year, which we will kick off with an important sale to celebrate 15-year anniversary video, which is awesome. I saw it and it looks awesome. So yeah, go to Eagle Dynamics, purchase some modules, some jets, whatever you want. Even the H-64D is on sale, so that's fucking awesome. Not everything is on sale. For example, the F-15E, the newest stuff, is not on sale, unfortunately. But some of the maps even are on sale. And Flaming Cliffs 3, that is like $20. So that's amazing, in my opinion. So anyways, this video is... Sorry guys, I'm a little bit tired. I just woke up and it's exhausting. So, this video is going to be about, it's going to be quite short, hopefully. This video is I'm going to show you a workaround I found to have your wingmen, AI Wingman, fence out and fence in Digital Combat Simulator. At least this works as a version 2.8, this version here, whatever it says. This version here, whatever it says, works with it, okay? I don't know if this will stay working. I don't know if it worked before. It likely didn't. But I don't know if it's going to stay working through future updates. Hopefully it does. If it doesn't, I'm going to be pissed. But I'm going to show you a workaround I have for it, okay? So, but first, before we begin, I'm going to show you the options I have because I switched some stuff here. I don't remember exactly what I switched. But as you can see here, I switched some stuff. Okay, the dirt and flare. I left everything else. I did 80 here and I put 2 here. Okay. And then gameplays as such. Miscellaneous. Okay. And actually, wake turbulence I'm going to turn off. So I'm going to turn this off, wake turbulence off, just because. Why not? And then here, that's what I got. Audios as such. I'm going to turn this up, but for the music I'm going to keep it down for now. Specials as such, F-16 Charlie. VR, no VR set. Alright, without further ado, let's begin. So I'm going to go to the mission editor, Nevada. And by the way, there's a way to change coalitions. You can change coalitions now. You can switch coalitions. You know, you can switch coalitions, you know, after you create a mission. Before you couldn't do that, now you can. Alright, I got the mission created. So, real quick, I just have it as parking hot and stuff. It doesn't matter what I have it set to, but I just want to show you real quick. If you click here, you can change coalitions. So, if you click this button right here, you can change coalitions, okay? So, I just wanted to show you that. We are clean jet, so okay, we are hot started. So let me put the parking brake on so I don't roll. Turn that up. It doesn't matter what this is, but as you can see, the Wingman has all his lights on. Now, so on the ground, okay, on the ground, he will not follow. He will not copy. Oh, by the way, disclaimer before I start. I don't know if this works for every single aircraft. I only know if this works. I only know that this workaround works on the F-16 because it's the only one I've tested. So I only know this works on the F-16. I don't know about the other jets. It likely does, but I don't know. But I know for sure this works on the F-16. And yeah, yeah. That's only know it works on the F-16. So, so the way the lights work is the way the lights work here. Let me turn this shit off. It's annoying me. And the consoles are still on. Great. Oh well. So the way this works is I know I'm stalling, guys. I'm sorry. I'm really tired. I just woke up. Right. So the way the lights work is if there's a certain time of day. It has to do with the time of day that you start the sim. Okay. Not in real life, but certain time of day that you start in the game. So we start at 4:30 in the morning, right? We're starting at 4:30 in the morning, and at 4:30 in the morning, when you start in, the lights on the airport are on. Okay, all the lights. I'm not talking just the runway, but the taxi lights and stuff like that. And also, so if you start in on the ramp, hot start or not, and you have the lights on, you have the taxi lights on, so like the blue lights and stuff, and the red light here. Now, don't count the runway. In Nevada, you can count the runway because the runway lights will go off on Nevada. Will be off in the daytime, like in the actual daytime, like at noon and shit. All the lights will be off on Nevada. But for example, on the Mariana Islands, I noticed that even if it's fully daytime and the taxi lights go out, the runway lights are still on. So on certain maps, don't count. So I would just say, oh god, that looks awesome. So I would just say, don't count the runway, okay? Don't count the runway. Don't count the runway. Just make sure that the taxi lights and stuff go out, the blue lights and stuff on the taxiways and stuff. Now, if you load into a map and those taxi lights are on, okay, those taxi lights are on, then that means that not only will you start with your interior lights on, okay, not only will you start with your interior lights on as well, but your wingman, okay, your wingman will have all his lights on, anti-collision and navigation lights on and stuff, okay. Now I know it's kind of hard to see right now, but he's got his nav light on there, he's got his nav light on there, so you see those bright little dots there, white dots there, right there where my mouse is, and right there, that means this nav are on. Here, let me do this. You can see his lights are on, right? Now, on the ground, your lead or your wingman will not on the ground. Your wingman will not copy your your lights, whatever you have it set to. Okay, so I'm on flash right now, as you can see, right? But he will not copy that. Even if I go here, he will not copy that. If I go off and off, off, or I can just do this too. If I do this, he will not copy, right? His anti-collision is still on and his nav lights are still on, as you can see there, right? I have all my lights off, but he does not. So on the ground, this workaround does not work. So on the ground, he's going to do his own thing, and that, I think, personally is okay, because honestly, why would you give, like, why would anyone really care what their lights are on the ground, okay? Like, what their lights are doing on the ground, okay? Because on the ground is on the ground. You have to be by the book then. But in the air, in flight, you should be able to control your wingman's lights and stuff. Now, these lights are going to stay on until 4:42 in the morning, I believe it is. And once that happens, these lights will go out, okay? These lights will go out. And when those lights go out, the wingman will turn off his nav lights, okay? Let's see, what time is it now? 4:38. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the mission editor and show you what it looks like if you start in the daytime. You start in the daytime, your interior lights will be off on a hot start, and even on a ramp start, your interior lights will be off. And these lights, all the lights on the airport will go out in Nevada. In Mariana Islands, just the taxi lights and stuff will go out, okay? And your wingman will have, wingman or wingmen, doesn't matter, depending on how much you have, will have the nav lights on, but the anti-collision on, okay? So as you can see, once more, he has his nav lights on, and his nav lights on, and his anti-collision on, okay? Let me restart here, and go up to 5 in the morning, okay? When we load in, all our lights are gonna be off, except for like all the lights on the airport are gonna be off, okay? Including the runway lights on Nevada, okay? All the lights are gonna be off, taxi lights and everything, and you'll see that the wingman has everything off but his anti-collision light. So his anti-collision light will stay on. So yeah, as you can see here, everything is off, all the lights off and stuff. Okay, do that, do that. And as you can see, all our lights are off, as you can see here. And this is there. All our lights are off, and interior lights are off. As you can see, if I do this, formation light on, aerial fuel light on, and everything. If I look at, so you can see, all the lights on the airport are off, right? You got the taxi lights off, and you got the runway lights off. So, with that said, that means you're gonna start like this, okay? Now, if you look at your wingman, he has everything off but his anti-collision light, okay? So let me go to 2 here. You can see I have my lights on, okay? I have all of my lights on, okay? I have nav lights on, okay? Nav lights and anti-collision light. And then I have my formation light on, and I have my aerial filling light on, okay? But you can look at 2, he has everything off but his anti-collision light, okay? So again, on the ground, you cannot switch. On the ground, you cannot change their lights, okay? You cannot have him copy your lights on the ground, okay? Now, if it were to become dusk for whatever reason, or, you know, early in the morning, whatever, he would turn his nav lights on, okay? He would turn his nav lights back on the ground. So as you can see, he does not copy you unless you are in the air. So let me get in the air real quick so that I can show you when he turns his nav lights on. So once he gets airborne, he will turn his nav lights on to copy me. Okay, so he will copy you once he is airborne and you are airborne. Okay, once he is airborne and you are airborne and he's not landing, he will copy whatever you have set in your lighting panel here. Okay, now I don't know if all the lights work, but the most important lights work. Okay, the most important lights, nav lights and the anti-collision light. I don't know if flash works, anything like that. I don't know. I don't know if that works, but I don't know if flash works. Like when you do flash over here, I don't know if that works, but I know the nav lights work. Okay, we'll test the flash when we get in the air. So let's get in the air. Let's get in the air real quick, and I'll show you that once he gets airborne, you can see right now, he does not have his lights on, his nav lights on. He's not copying me. He does not have his nav lights on, but once you get in the air, he will turn it on. Okay, so let's do it. Let's get in the air, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take off. I'm not gonna worry about clearance or anything. It's gonna take off. I'm gonna expedite this. Okay. I'm gonna expedite this here. Try to go as fast as possible. As you can see, he still doesn't have his lights on. Okay. It's gonna take off real quick. Take over here without clearance. It's okay. I'm just gonna do this so I can show you when he turns his lights on. Okay. Oh, when he copies me. Sorry. When he goes to copy me. Copy our lights. Okay. So rotate. Okay, up. Alright, so we're just gonna keep going here. You can see he still has his lights off, right? So he's going to take off here, and when he does, when he rejoins, so when he's doing ruling, he's going to have his lights off, right? He's not going to copy me until he says to rejoin, and when he rejoins me, then he will turn his lights on. Okay, he would turn his nav lights on, and he would copy me. Okay, now yeah, he would copy me. So okay, so when he says rejoin, he will turn his lights on. Watch. Lights on. Okay, now he's copying me. Okay, now I'm gonna tell him to go finger four. And I might as well just set this. So I'm just gonna keep going here. Just gonna turn around a little bit. So obviously he copies my lights, right? So anti-collision and everything. Now, when I was in the ground attack in bad weather video, when I was doing the ground attack in bad weather video, I noticed that that's the first time I noticed that he copies your lights. But I noticed that if you turn all your lights off here, so I have my lights off, right? All my lights are off. I'm fenced in, okay? Now, he has all his lights off except for the anti-collision light, okay? So, he's not fully fenced in, okay? And that bothered me. That bothered me a lot. The fact that 2 was not completely fenced in. You can see even from here, he's got his anti-collision on, right? His anti-collision's flashing on his tail. So he's not completely fenced in. And I'm like, fuck. And even if I turn this off here, it doesn't matter. He still has it on. So I'm like, how the hell am I supposed to do this? It's probably not possible. That was until the video that I'm uploading right now, which is the Mariana Islands complete exploration video, which is like 6 hours and 42 minutes long or whatever. Because that took fucking forever. It took me 6.5 hours to fly the whole map. That's what I do in the mid. Fly the whole map. All the islands anyway. So you can see he has his lights on. And when so a little bit of spoiler, in that video, I had to tank twice, okay? I had to tank a couple times in order to, I had 3 fuel bags on, so I had a centerline tank and I had 2 wing external tanks. And I still required to tank twice. Once on the way there and once on the way back. So I had to tank twice. I had to tank a couple of times. Now in that, I needed 2 to tank 2. I wanted him to tank as well because I didn't want him to run out of fuel and eject and shit. I didn't want him to run out of fuel and stuff. So when I had him tank, I found out that he turns off all his lights and goes into this covert mode thing, where he only has his formation light on and his formation light on and that's it. Formation light and that's it. Literally, it looks like this. Let me do it. Well, actually no, it's fine. He literally has his formation light on and that's it. So that's the only light he has on. This is formation light. And he goes in this covert mode. But I noticed that he also turns off his anti-collision light. So he turns off all his nav lights. He turns off all his nav lights and his anti-collision light, and turns on his formation light to tank. And I'm like, oh shit, that's how you turn off the anti-collision light. That's a way you can turn off the anti-collision light. Have him fly to a tanker. And it's like, shit, that's how you do that. That's how that's how you turn off the anti-collision light to go to tanker. So all you have to do is tell your wingman to go to tanker and he'll turn all his lights off, turn anti-collision light off. And you're thinking, but Ice, I don't have a tank in my mission, so it's not possible, right? Wrong. You can tell him to turn off his anti-collision. I found out you can either tell him to fly to a tanker, or you can tell him to go route or return to base. So anything in this go-to menu here, F3, return to base, route, fly to tanker, all 3 of these will force 2 to turn off his anti-collision light. And all his lights actually. And then, so that means that you can tell him to either go to return to base, fly to tanker, or go route. Route would tell him to follow the flight plan, okay? Now, return to base, if I tell him to return to base, so he has... Oops, no, the wrong one. You can see, look, he'll turn his lights off. Turn all his lights off, including the anti-collision, see? And then he goes into this covert mode, okay? He goes into the covert mode, the formation light on, and that's it, right? And actually, here's a real feeling, okay. So that's what he's doing there, okay? So he has all his lights off. Now, I figured, great. Now, once he was done tanking, he rejoined automatically and turns all his lights on, right? Let's have him rejoin. Watch what happens. He copies me, turns all his lights on, except for the anti-collision, okay? So, when he finished tanking, he turned his lights on. I noticed later he turned his lights back on, his nav lights on, okay, to copy me. Okay, he's copying me, see? He's copying me, see, he has his anti-collision, his nav lights on and stuff, but he has his anti-collision light off. And then I'm like, so as you can see there, so it's like, I was like, fuck. Now, my problem before was telling him to turn, or figuring out how to turn off his anti-collision light. Now, I'm having trouble figuring out how to turn on his anti-collision light. What do I do? You know, because you can see, he's copying me, right? He's copying me. Oh, he's gone past the speed of sound. He's copying me, right? He's got his nav lights on, but his anti-collision light off. So it's like, fuck. He just has his nav lights on, but there's not an anti-collision light. What the fuck? What do I do? How do I tell him to turn on his anti-collision light? That's very easy. All you have to do is tell him to go to return to base. Tell him to return to base. The caveat is you have to wait a little bit. You have to wait till number 2 is on his landing phase, okay? His landing phase. Don't worry if his gear is down and he's on base leg. You have to monitor him. You have to monitor number 2 in order for this to work, because you don't want him to completely land. If you have him completely land, then that's it. You if you have number 2 land completely, then he will not take off again, okay? So you have to make sure number 2 does not land, okay? If you want him to continue flying with you, okay? If you want him to return to base and land and just stay there, that's one thing. But if you want him to come back with his anti-collision light on and everything and copy you completely and fence out completely, do not let him land. You can let him be on the landing phase even with his gear down and everything, brakes out and everything, gear down, everything ready for landing configuration, but you cannot let him actually land, okay? So you can see he has his nav lights on but his anti-collision light off. So to tell him to return to base, or to tell him to turn his anti-collision back on, you need to tell him to return to base and wait till he's on his base leg, okay? He doesn't have to have his gear down, but he has to be on his base leg. I'll show you what happens when his gear's down, okay? When his gear's down, he will put his gear back up and rejoin you, okay? I'll show you. So, he's copying my lights, right? He's copying my lights, except for the anti-collision light, right? So, to tell him to turn off his anti-collision light, okay? To tell him to turn off, oh sorry, his anti-collision light's already off, but to tell him to turn it back on, you tell him to return to base, okay? Turn all his lights off. Turn his formation light back on, his air refueling light, okay? And you'll notice that when he's on his landing phase, when he gets to his landing phase and he goes base turn or whatever, he will, when he goes base turn, he will turn on his anti-collision light, okay? Now the bad thing about this is you have to be close, well you don't have to be close to the base, you can be as far as you want away from the base to have him turn his lights back on, right? You can be as far as you want away from the base. You just have to have him get to the base. That's the bad thing. You have to get him, make sure he gets to the base, okay? Gets back to base to return. And once he gets there, he will get in the landing configuration, and when he does, he'll turn his anti-collision back on, okay? So, should be pretty soon here. Alright, so got speed brakes out. Alright, there we go. Let's turn his anti-collision light on now. He should anyway. Once he does the turn to base, he will turn it on. Okay, so any second now. Once he does his base turn. So we just go back in and he turns. Any second. second now. And when he does, he will turn his formation light off, every refueling light off, and all his lights off except the anti-collision. So it turns on now. There you go, see? Anti-collision back on. See that? Anti-collision is back on. So now, when the anti-collision is back on, you can tell him to, see now gears down, right? Do not let him land, like I said, do not let him actually land and touch the tarmac, okay? Right now, you can tell him to rejoin, and he will turn all his lights on. He will copy you. So nav lights on. There you go. Get back up, nav lights on, and look at that. He's going to rejoin you, copy your lights, and look at that. He has his anti-collision back on. Okay? Now it doesn't look like his lights, it doesn't look like his anti-collision light is on in the same mode. It's not like you can turn it on in the same mode where it goes blink, 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 blink. I don't think you can do that with this. It doesn't look like it. But at least his anti-collision light is on, right? That's the most important thing. At least it's on, you know? Hey, it's the same as me. It's the same anti-collision light setting as me. That's beautiful. So, again, now his anti-collision light is on. He has his lights on completely, okay? It's a workaround. Lights on completely. He's completely fenced out. Now again, if I turn this off, he will not turn his anti-collision off. Okay? He would turn off his nav light, but he would not turn off his anti-collision, okay? So, if you want him to fence out completely, tell him to return to base, or hold, you can even tell him to hold position. He will turn it off then as well, if you tell him to hold position. Now I don't know if any of these work where you say engage and shit like that. I don't know if any of that works. I don't know if he turns his nav light, his lights off, then he might. If he does, then if you want him to fence out again, tell him to return to base and stuff. So as you can see, if I tell him to hold position, so if I do this again, all his lights are on. Even if I tell him to turn his anti-collision off, he won't turn it off. Okay? Okay? So again, if you want him to fence in, or fence in and turn all his lights off, you can either tell him to hold position, that works too, or you can tell him to essentially return to base if you want, that works too. So you can do return to base, he'll turn all his lights off, including anti-collision. Okay? And then you can tell him to rejoin. Now his nav lights are on because mine are on, right? So if you want him to completely fence out, you have to fence out too. So if I fence out too, he's completely fenced out. 100% completely fenced out. Okay? So he's fenced in, sorry. My apologies. He's fenced in, okay? He's completely fenced in, ready for combat. Okay? And again, if you turn this on, he'll turn his nav lights back on, but not his anti-collision. So to tell him to turn his anti-collision back on, do the same thing as before, tell him to go to return to base. He'll turn all his lights off temporarily until he gets there, and then once he gets there, he will turn his anti-collision on, like we saw before. I will show you. That was cool. Dangerous as fuck, but cool. So if you want to fence out, get that anti-collision back on. You know. So once he gets to landing and he turns his light back on, he will, you can tell him to return, or to rejoin. And he will turn his lights back on. So it's a process, it takes a while. If you want him to fence out completely and have his anti-collision lighting back on, it takes a while. Because you have to wait for him to get there, and you have to wait for him to get back to base, however far you're flying out and stuff. You have to wait for him to get back to base and get into lagging configuration, and then he will turn his light back on. So you have to do that. And I'll show you something you can do so that if you're really far away, like 300 miles away from base or whatever, but there's an airport nearby, how you can force him to there you go, see? He's got it back on. So now rejoin.
Flight, join up.
Alright, light back on, nav light's back on, he's completely fenced out, okay? I'm copying you, okay? See that? Pretty cool, right? So that's that. Now, there's two more things I want to show. I want to show you, if you start in the air with a turning point, he will automatically have his anti-collision light off if you start in the air. I will show you. Okay. So let's start in the air. So let's close this and start in the air. So if we do a turning point instead, and we start in the air, like so. So you can see we're starting in the air here, right? We're starting in the air. Let me get my trigger on. There you go. We're starting in the air, and as you can see, his anti-collision light is off, but his nav lights are on. So it's the same thing as before. So his anti-collision light is off. So the easiest thing to do would be to tell him to turn to base.
Flight, RTB.
Once he gets in the landing configuration. This is pretty much the ideal, quickest situation here. Once he gets in the landing configuration there, he will turn his light on. Now I believe at night he would turn on his... oh shit. I believe at night he would turn on his... he would turn on his nav lights too. He would keep his nav lights on, but his anti-collision off. Any second now. There you go, see? Now you can tell him to rejoin.
Flight, join up.
Right, now he's back, right? Got his anti-collision light on and everything. And he's copying the area of feeling, he's copying all your lights, okay? Anti-collision too. Well, not anti-collision, but, you know. Pretty cool, right? So now he's fully fenced out with you. So, second to last thing I want to show is, well, I'll show the next two things at the same time. The last thing you can do is if, let's say you're flying really far away, okay? What I'm going to be showing you is the land refuel air, land refuel AR waypoint. Now obviously you can see it's not in here. Oh, actually it is. Yeah, it is. It's in there. Let's see. So what this does, if you do this, time 10 minutes, okay? So what it does is it makes it so that you can have your wingman refuel, land and refuel, and then get back in the air, okay? And it takes him 10 minutes to do so. Now, there's no use doing this on your own base. There's no use doing this on your own, on the base that, you know, there's no use doing this on the base that you took off from, unless you already have a land refuel air waypoint somewhere else. Okay, so basically, let me delete this and this. So if I do land refuel air, so if I just do landing, we will the number 2 will land at North Las Vegas. You would take off from Nellis and land at North Las Vegas. But if you just imagine that if North Las Vegas was really far away, 300 miles away from Nellis, let's say, hypothetically, if it was that far away, and you didn't want to wait for number 2 to go all the way back to base, or maybe it was too far away for him to get back to the base on one tank, you can have him land at a near, if you want him to like fence out and stuff, you can have him land near where you where the war is, where you're landing, or not where you're landing, but where the tank is, or wherever you are, right? You have to be at the nearest airport, okay? So landing, he'll just land there and not take off again. If you do land refuel air, you can have him land there, okay? You can have him land there, okay? Land there, refuel, and then get back in the air. Now, be careful with this, because if you just have it set to this here, and you don't put another waypoint at Nellis, he will land here, refuel, rearm, take off, and then land back here again. So the way the game works is wherever the land refuel air waypoint is set, wherever that is set is where he will land. Okay, he will land at the last. The number 2 will land at the last landing refuel air waypoint, not the landing waypoint. Okay. So what you want to do, if you want him to land, basically the way it's set up right now is he will land here, refuel, get in the air, and then land back here. Okay. He would just circle around and land again. If you want him to land back at Nellis, at the home base, if you want him to land back at Nellis at the home base, what you want to do is, if you want him to land back at the base, what you want to do is do land refuel air here, right? Like it shows, and then do another waypoint to make it simple. Do another waypoint. Let's see, add maybe here, and then that's a turning point. So now he would take off and then go here. He would land refuel air here. Oops. Land refuel air here at number still point 2, and then he will take off again and go to still point 3. And then once he gets to still point 3, he will turn around and land back at North Las Vegas, not Nellis. So to get him to land back at Nellis, what you want to do is go to Nellis here, have a waypoint at Nellis, and then do not landing, because this won't work. He would disregard landing here, and he would turn back and land at North Las Vegas. Wherever the last previous land refuel air waypoint is set to, is the airport that he will land at. So what you want to do, unfortunately, if you do this method, there's no way for him to just land at Nellis. There's no way for him to just land at Nellis and not take off again. What you have to do is you have to do land refuel air and just leave it like that, okay? He will land, refuel, get back in the air at Nellis now, okay? So you got you got one here, land refuel air, and then you got a land refuel air here. So at steer point 4, what he will do is he will land refuel air here, and then he will go to steer point 3, and then he will do a land refuel air here. So he will land refuel rearm, take off from Nellis, and then he will, if you don't have any other steer points set, he will immediately turn back around and land at Nellis. So basically what he will do, basically the flight plan for him is go here, and then so go to steer point 1, land refuel air at North Las Vegas, take off, and then go to steer point 3, and then land refuel air, take off at Nellis, and then land back at Nellis. Because remember, Nellis is the last waypoint, right? Nellis is the very last land refuel air waypoint, okay? Don't do landing because it won't work, okay? Do not do this because it won't work. You have to do land refuel air, okay? And then you have to do land refuel air now, and then he will turn back and land. Now if you want to do a landing, if you want to specifically do a landing, what you can do is add another waypoint here like this. So he would take off land refuel air, go to steer point 5, and then you do another waypoint, go to steer point 5, and then you would do another waypoint, steer point 6, back at Nellis, and you would do a landing, okay? And then steer point 6, he would come back and land. You can choose the parking area and stuff. So that's how you would do that, okay? But I'm not going to do that. So I'm not going to show you him landing, refueling, and airing and all that. I'm not going to show you that whole thing. But I'm just going to show. Him landing at Nellis, okay? Or I'm just going to show him, going to North Las Vegas and then landing at Nellis. Now, when you're in a turning point, logically, if you're in a turn, I haven't tested this, but I think that if you're in a turning point like we are here, okay? Oops. If you're in a turning point here, like this here. If you're in a turning point here, what will happen is, if you're in a turning point like we are here with this steer point, and you start in the air, okay? You start in the air. What I think will happen is, whatever the last waypoint is of the land refuel air, so this here, steer point 4, he will automatically return here because this is the last one that was set here for steer point 5 in the sequence. I'm going to test that real quick. I'm going to test that when we get in the air. I'm just going to tell him to return to base and see what happens. Okay, that got super complicated. I did several testing. I did a lot of tests and that got super complicated, but I think I got it. So the reason I have North Las Vegas red is because apparently we can't land at North Las Vegas. Like we can, but 2 will not be able to. It's not built for F-16s or whatever. So North Las Vegas is a no. Is a no-go. So that's why I have it red. That's why I have it red, so that we can't go there. But Nellis and McCarran we can go to. So the way this works is, if you have it set up like we do here, where we have McCarran International as a land refuel air and Nellis as a landing. The way this works is, if you get in the cockpit, okay? If you get in the cockpit, if you get in the cockpit and you are already in the air, stuck in the air, and you tell number 2 to return to base, then he will go to Nellis. Even though this is a land refuel air, waypoint, he will actually go to Nellis, because this is a landing waypoint. So apparently landing waypoints actually take priority for returning to base. However, if you tell him to go route, So to follow the route, he will go to steer point 1 and then land at McCarran, because, not Nellis, because McCarran is the nearest landing, refuel, air waypoint. Okay. Now, if you have it, so if you have it here, if you have us here, if you have us here, where we are here, and you tell him to return to base, then he will land at Nellis. Okay. Now, if you tell him to go route, he will go to 1 and then land at McCarran, because it's the nearest land, refuel, air waypoint. Now, if you have steer point 4 as a land, refuel, air as well, and you start in the air, and you tell him to go return to base, he will then, so you have steer point 4 as a return to base, as a land, refuel, air, and you also have steer point 2 as a land, refuel, air. Okay, so Nellis and McCarran is both land, refuel, air. So which one will you do? Well, it turns out that your wingman will land, if you tell him to return to base, go to return to base, he will land at the nearest landing, refuel, air waypoint. Not the last, but the nearest. So he's closer to Nellis. In this configuration, he would be closer to Nellis than he would be to McCarran, so he would land at Nellis. He would land at Nellis if you tell him to return to base. However, if you put him here, where he's closer to McCarran than to Nellis, he will land at McCarran instead, and do a land, refuel, air if you tell him to return to base. Okay. I believe it will be a land. I'm not sure if it's a land, refuel, air that he would do, or if he would just return to base. I'm not entirely sure about that. I haven't tested that, and I'm probably not going to, because that's a lot of work and a lot of time. So you guys can test that if you want. To be safe, I would just say, if you have land, refuel, air here and here, it's the nearest one he will land at. Now, if you go route, he will just follow the route. So if you're here, he'll follow, and you tell him to go route, he will follow route and land at McCarran first, because that's the first, that's part of the route, okay? Now, if you go here, and you tell him to do route, he will not land at Nellis, so you go here, land at McCarran, take off, and then land at Nellis, take off, and then land at Nellis again. Okay. So I don't know if he will actually land, and if you would tell him to return to base, I don't know if he will land air refuel or if he would just do route. I think he will just land. My best guess is he would just land at McCarran, or in this case Nellis, because it's closer to him. He would land at Nellis, and then just stay there if you tell him to RTB. But if you tell him to go route, then he will follow the route. That much I do know. He will definitely follow the route if you follow the route, but I would assume if you tell him to RTB, he would just land. So I did some more testing, and it looks like I did some testing on the takeoff and landing, and basically if you take off, taking off is a little bit different. So if you take off from an airbase, so if you start like here, your turning point is from ramp, let's say from here, from ramp or runway, doesn't matter. Things are a little bit different. When you take off, no matter where you are, if number 2 is here by Nellis, and you tell him to return to base, then he will return to Nellis. And even if he's here by McCarran, and you tell him to return to base, then he will return to Nellis, not McCarran, even though it shows land, refuel, air. And that's because you took off from Nellis. Now if you started in the air and you don't have an actual landing spot or a takeoff spot, an actual base, then like I said, it will go to the nearest. if these are both set to land, refuel, air, it will go to the nearest land, refuel, appropriate land, refuel, air. And I also tested, and they will actually land. So if if I'm here and I tell 2 to return to base, he will return to McCarran, land, and he will not take off. He will actually return to base and just stay there. He will land at McCarran and stay there until he despawns. Same thing over here. If I put him over here, he will land at Nellis and stay there. Okay. He will land us and stay there. That's if I go to and I say return to base. I force him to return to base. He will return to Nellis, and in this case McCarran, in this case Nellis, and stay there. Okay. Also, if this is, I don't know if I said this already, I don't remember, but if I set this to landing for steer point 4, and I'm over here and I tell him to return to base, he will return to Nellis. Okay. He will return to Nellis Air Force Base and land at Nellis and stay there. Now if he's over here at McCarran, he was over here near McCarran, he will skip McCarran, and I tell him to return to base, he will skip McCarran, land at Nellis, and stay at Nellis. Okay? That's if Nellis is set to landing. Okay? But if it's set to air refuel, landing refuel air, and these are both set to landing refuel air, then Nellis, then it's the nearest, whichever nearest one you want him to land at, he will return to base to put whichever one. So in this case McCarran, you return to McCarran, land there, stay there. In this case, return to Nellis, land there, stay there, because it's nearest to where he is. And it's the same thing here. If I switch McCarran and I say, well, I can't do it right now, but if I have turning point, so I have to land refuel air. I can't actually land at McCarran, so that's a little bit different. I can't actually land at McCarran because it's not a base. What the hell? Oh, yeah. If I tell him to go here, land refuel air at McCarran, and I tell him to land refuel air here, land refuel air and land refuel air. So if I do landing here, then no matter where I am, okay, no matter where I am, whether I'm here or here, I'm first going to do it here by Nellis. So you can see that 2 will land at Nellis, okay, because although this is a land refuel air waypoint, this is a landing waypoint. So wherever the landing waypoint is, he will skip McCarran, even though it's a land refuel air waypoint, and he will go to Nellis. He will go to Nellis and land at Nellis. So as you can see, we're right by Nellis, and if I tell him to return to base, he will go to Nellis. Okay. See, he's going to Nellis. You'll see he's going to keep turning, and that way you know he's going to Nellis. And by the way, when it's early in the morning like this, he will turn his nav lights on and his anti-collision. He will completely fence out. See, he's landing at Nellis. So, because this is the landing waypoint, he will land here no matter where I am. Okay. Wait till he gets his anti-collision on. See, now lights and anti-collision. So that's that. That's because, so he landed here because that was the landing waypoint. Okay, now I'm going to take him and put him near McCarran. You'll see he will skip McCarran and he will do full afterburner and try to go to Nellis. Okay, so you can see we're right by McCarran. So if I do McCarran, return to base, he's right over McCarran. He's going to go full afterburner and go to Nellis, as you can see. He's gone full afterburner, he's going to Nellis. See? Gone full afterburner, he's going to Nellis. So that's that. And that's because he this is the landing waypoint. Now if I did land refuel air here, if I do land refuel air here and land refuel air here, it's wherever the closest land refuel air is. So if I do Nellis, he would land at Nellis. Like so. Go to, return to base. So he's landing at Nellis. See, he keeps turning. So he's definitely landing at Nellis. You can see there. Okay, he's landing at Nellis because you can see he's turning into where the panda will be. So that's Nellis. Now if I put him here, he will land at McCarran. Watch. As you can see, he will now land at McCarran if I do this. Go to return to base.
Flight RTB.
See, lights on and everything. He's landing at McCarran because it's the closest. Okay, closest land air refuel waypoint or airport or whatever that you can land at. See, so he's definitely landing there. And then finally, if you have him take off from here at McCarran, if you have him take off from McCarran, if I have us take off from McCarran, never took off from McCarran before. If you have us take off from McCarran, I didn't actually test this to be honest, but if you have us take off from McCarran, this is actually good. If you have us take off from McCarran, and that is a land refuel air, okay, he should land at McCarran. Let's see. Oh, it's a curved runway. Oh shit. So they do have curved runways here. Fuck yeah. Alright, so anyways, so if we take off from McCarran, he's taking off. Oh fuck, he's taking off with me. Dude, that's so dope. Formation takeoff, never seen that before. That's so dope. It's actually good he's going that route so that he can land. So as you can see, if I do go to return to base, he's going to land at McCarran. He should land at McCarran, because that's the one we took off from. Yep, he's definitely landing McCarran, as you can see, because he's going low in speed and stuff. If he was landing at Nellis, he would go full afterburner in that direction. So he's definitely landing at McCarran here. So he's definitely landing at McCarran. So what that means is, whichever airport you take off from, if you tell him to return to base, he's going to return to that base, okay? Actually, what I should have done was fly to Nellis really quickly with him to show you that he will land, he will turn back around to McCarran. Burn and go straight to fucking Nellis Air Force Base. So we're right by Nellis, right? So when he lands, when I tell him to return to base, he's going to land at McCarran, not Nellis. Even though Nellis is closer, he's going to land at McCarran. Watch. If I do return to base, he's going to turn around. Or not, he's going to land at Nellis. Oh no, yeah, no, he's turning around. I'm right, he's turning around, for sure. Yeah, he's doing full burn and everything. So, because we took off from McCarran, he's going back to McCarran. Okay? Whichever one you... whichever airport you take off from is basically your home base. Okay, so if you take off from an airport, your home base. Okay, that's why 2 is not landing at Nellis. He's landing at McCarran right now. See, he's passing now, it's not even going to try to land, and he's going to McCarran, as you can see. So that's because we took off from McCarran, okay? And the last thing I want to test is if this is a landing, okay? This is landing here, yet we take off from McCarran with the land refuel air, whatever, we take off from runway. Does he actually land? Does he go to Nellis or does he go to McCarran? I haven't tested this. Let's see. Let's do it. Alright, so will he go to Nellis or McCarran? No, he's not landing at McCarran. He's landing at Nellis. Yep, he's definitely landing at Nellis. That's 100%. He's landing at Nellis. He would have turned back by now. So he's definitely landing at Nellis. So, in summary, what this means is, whichever airport you take off from is your base, is your home base, your home plate, unless you have a landing waypoint that is somewhere else, okay? So this is landing somewhere else, this is landing here, okay? This is landing here, so that's what this is, okay? So in summary, because this is landing, he went and landed at Nellis. But if I can't have landing here at McCarran, where he stays there, but it's a land refuel air, that's all I can do. A way you can, I think, get around it and kind of a workaround loophole, whatever, is to make it like we did before. So if you have it, so this is land refuel air, and this is land refuel air, and he goes to the nearest one, and the nearest one is McCarran, and he lands at McCarran. Then he'll land and stay there. He will, whichever base he takes off from, he will land back at McCarran if you tell him to return to base. Okay. So I know that was way off track, but what I wanted to really show is there's different ways you can have him land at different airports of your choosing. Okay. Now, the main thing to remember is, if you tell him to return to base, no matter where it is or what you're doing here, if you tell him to return to base, he will land and not take off again, even if it's a land refuel air waypoint. Okay, if this is land refuel air waypoint and I tell him to return to base from here and he lands at Nellis, okay, he will land and not take off again. I tested that. Okay, he will land and not take off of that. Just take my word for it, because at least in this version of DCS World Open Beta, that's what happens. Okay, and last thing I'm going to say is, if you're way away from Nellis, if you're far away from Nellis and you want him to turn off his lights or whatever, or land at an airport near where you are. So let's say this is near where AO is, area of operations, and this is not. Let's just say, you start in the air, whatever. You have both land refuel air, okay? If you tell him to return to base, he will return to McCarran and not take off again. What you need to do is not say return to base. What you need to do is tell him to go route, like such. So instead of telling him to return to base, if you want him to land and stay there, then tell him to return to base. But you need to tell him to fly route, okay? That's the safest option. Tell him to fly route. Now he will land. He will follow the route and land at McCarran. Yeah, it looks like he's landing at Nellis for whatever reason. But basically, the most important thing is, when you tell him to go route, he will follow the route as you have it planned, okay? You follow the route as you have it planned. He should anyway. This is kind of odd because, we're pretty far away or whatever. So the best thing to do would be to put another waypoint in between. So like here, waypoint 1, and then waypoint 2 be that, okay? Because then he will go here, he follow the route, then go here, land, air refuel, take off, and then land, air refuel, take off, and then land again, okay, at Nellis. So that's essentially what would happen. Okay, so I know that was a lot, guys. That was a lot. The most important thing is, if you want him to turn off his lights, fence in, remember, if you want him to fence in, turn off his lights, tell him to go route, or return to base, or fly to tanker. He will automatically turn off his anti-collision light, okay? But to turn it back on, you tell him to return to base, wherever that is. Once he's on the landing phase, he will turn on his light, his anti-collision light, then you can tell him to rejoin, and he will copy your lights with the anti-collision light on. Unfortunately, you can't get the blink, 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 blink repetitive motion of the light, but you can turn it back to exactly where yours is. So you can't do the blink, 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 but you can't do that again, but unfortunately, but you can at least have his anti-collision light on, that's the important thing. Alright, that's it, guys. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. It's really a trial and error thing, you've got to test, but I pretty much tested everything for you that I could think of. Again, with this stuff here, it's complicated. With the land refuel air stuff, it's complicated. Basically, remember, the closest, wherever the closest, this is land refuel air, and this is land refuel air, wherever the closest one is, he will land at, okay? If you tell him to return to base. Land but not take off again, remember. If you want him to actually follow the route, tell him to follow the route, okay? But yeah, so if you actually land and take off again, or whatever, if you tell him to return to base, then he will return to base and land. Regardless of this setting here, he will actually land. Now remember, if this is set to landing, he will disregard this here, this land over fuel, and land at Ellis, okay? So I know it's very complicated, it's a lot of stuff to remember, but in short, all you need to remember for the lights, which is the easiest thing ever, is to turn it off, just have him fly to tanker, fly route, or fly to return to base, and then he'll turn them off immediately, or you can even just hold position, have him hold position, then he'll turn off his lights, then you can have him, he'll turn off into collision anyway, and then you can tell him to rejoin and he will be fenced in then. And again, to make him fence out completely, just tell him to return to base, wait till he gets to the base, and he is in his landing phase, and once he is, turns his anti-collision light on, you can tell him to rejoin and he will join you. And this whole thing with the land air refuel thing is just there. I just put that in there so that in case you guys are making a 400-mile flight, you don't want to wait for him to fly all the way back. You know, you can, as long as there's an airport nearby that he can land at, you can tell him to land at the nearest airport, at that near airport, as long as you have a waypoint there. Okay, that's a land refuel air waypoint, and you can tell him to go route. So yeah, that's all for this part, guys. If you'd like to smash a button like a badass, leave a comment. I'll see you guys next time for